DeSanto Propane is 4 generations strong as a trustworthy family-owned business with unmatched customer service. Go online at DeSantoPropane.com for more info or call toll-free at 1-800-752-4574. Since 1937, the difference has been DeSanto Propane.
All right, everybody, welcome into Fresh Takes with Russo and Felice. I am Paul Russo, joined as always by the man, the myth, the legend himself, Nick Felice. We have an interesting show today. There's not a ton in the aggregate to talk about today, so it's a couple really bigger headlines, and we'll be out here. We got the transfer portal. You just can't escape it. I thought Rory was never going to be able to escape the choking allegations, and for a couple split seconds, that was about to be the case, but not anymore. And then we got the Bristol stuff to recap from my trip down, first time ever in Tennessee.
And we also have a week later, the Pirates president coming about with a statement about the Bucco bricks today.
Oh, only took a week.
Yes.
What do you have on that front? That maybe we can just lead off.
Oh, no, it's just him apologizing a week later.
Oh, of course, sure.
And how they're going to get the bricks back, and you get
How? Wait, what? Wait.
I thought they got them. Didn't they see it? They found them at recycling?
They did get them? Well, right. I mean, somebody found out where they were, but like...
Yeah, I'm not too sure on that.
Okay.
I think the people are getting a replica of their brick, though. I'm not sure.
Nick, I feel bad for this team. I feel bad for you. We went over this last week.
Yeah.
The fans, the players, they deserve better.
Yeah.
At least the Pirates are bringing back the fighting necklaces.
Yeah, for one day.
Oh, they didn't run them back?
They did.
Okay.
They scored 0 runs yesterday, though.
Worked
for one day.
True. So, yeah, we got that. Yeah, let's start off with the portal stuff. It's interesting given the context of where I was this weekend when everything kind of popped off. So, we get done with this podcast. Thursday comes and we find out that Nico, I'm going to butcher his last name here more than likely, but Nico Iamaleava.
That's it.
I came closer than I thought I was.
Couldn't even try.
Tennessee's quarterback. They were in negotiations, restructuring his NIL. Not that part, nothing surprising, given the way the climate is right now. We've seen that a few different times with different players in various sports, whatever. Friday comes, he no-shows practice, more or less as a holdout, and then pretty quickly turns into Josh Heupel saying he's no longer with the team. And it was interesting being in the area where there was a lot of Vol fans, right? Interesting mood on some of them, right? Because it's funny, I was checking into my hotel for the race, and I had my phone out because that's where I had the reservation ticket, obviously, right? And the man checking me in was decked out in some Volunteers gear and stuff like that. It was Saturday. You could tell it's a little bit casual, whatever. Personally, I don't give a shit about that anyway. But so I have my thing out, and a notification pops up, and it's kind of funny how some things works. And I not that I saw the life drain from him by any means, but it was a notification that UNC was out on bringing Nico in through the transfer portal. I'm like, oh, I hope he didn't see that. I think he did, but it's like whatever. Interesting vibes that I caught from a lot of Tennessee fans down that way. Like I said, I think they were hopeful that things would get worked out. It didn't. Also, at the same token, they didn't seem all that worried in the immediate. Now, I could be wrong at this point. Now we're a few more days along in all this. He officially, right before we went live, put his name into the transfer portal formally. So it's interesting. I think I want to start right here, reaction-wise, and then we can get more into the weeds on this. Obviously, a name like his, and I mean that from a playing standpoint, right? With a team like Tennessee, I was admittedly a little bit stunned but I guess you can't necessarily be shocked by anything in the transfer portal era. But just given, I think, everything at this point, the spring window for football, we normally don't see big names necessarily into the portal, but we certainly have in this situation.
Yeah, and you talk about Tennessee had a really good year last year.
Yeah.
And now they're basically starting over with a new quarterback, and their quarterback they had last year he's gone into the transfer portal, and he's going to try to go elsewhere. A lot of this had to deal with money, obviously. He wanted a little bit more cash with his NIL, and, it's never going to happen. But, the talks of the salary cap in college sports is going to come back, but I don't believe it will ever happen. You just physically can't do it. There's just too many teams, too many sports. It's just, you can't do it. And it's become, where he's going to go wherever he can get more money. And if North Carolina's that school, then that's great. That's where he's going to go. And it's unfortunate for Tennessee because they seemed like they were just starting to come up on the rise a little bit. They had been not that great for their standards over the years, but they had a really good year last year. Ran into a tough Ohio State team in the first round, and it's unfortunate to see him go into the portal. Especially, I assume Tennessee fans liked him as their quarterback.
Yeah,
and it's not like he went pro or anything. This is just basically got kicked off the team. It felt like.
Yeah, and it's tough because and some of the stuff you brought up, I want to talk about again on a maybe broader scale that we've talked about here plenty, and other people talk plenty. But yeah, I mean it's weird because Tennessee, he was the top returning quarterback in the SEC across a lot of kind of boards and people who pay attention to college football for a living in that sense. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if this leaves Tennessee in a really tough spot. There's names in the portal that they can hypothetically go and get. I don't know if this changes much of the trajectory for them this upcoming season in the broad sense. Tennessee's been a weird program in our lifetime, right? I mean, we've had it's kind of weird, and we'll put them into this category. I don't know if it's necessarily fair or accurate, but it's a lot like the Virginia Tech stuff for us in my mind, where we get told this is a very prestigious program, and it's
really,
yeah, 8-4 is prestigious, huh? Prestigious, interesting. But it's weird because at the same token, I don't know if I view them necessarily all that lower than Alabama in the grand scheme of it either. It's one of those weird kind of a tweener program almost in a way, a tweener brand for the sport, right?
Well, last week you were talking about college basketball in the SEC, and you were saying is there any program better than Florida and Kentucky? How would you look in? Where does Tennessee rank in football?
Yeah,
in the SEC,
in the Grandivas of it, somewhere between Alabama and. They fall somewhere in between Alabama and Arkansas. I wouldn't say they're I don't call them top tier, but I wouldn't call them the second tier either. You know what I mean? It's weird.
They just had too many mediocre.
That's what I mean by they're this tweener brand where it's yeah. I mean, I don't know about mediocre. Probably that's a fair assessment, of them.
They've been kind of irrelevant in our lifetime.
For the most part, yeah.
And they had a great year last year, and they lost in the first round. I mean, what are you going to do?
Yeah, so I don't know. It's an interesting spot to be in, obviously. Now I'll go with the broader sense of NIL again here. Me and you have different viewpoints on this, and that's not what I want to rehash here by any means. But this is where I do have issue with the way it is structured, right? We kind of locally, I didn't plan on making this be a big talking point within the podcast today, but locally it hit here with Trevor Pena at Syracuse, the wide receiver, and I always go back to this, where I don't have a problem with a student wanting to go to a different school and have it be any different because they happen to be an athlete than a regular student. I've said this before, I'll say it again. When we were in college, we had the ability to freely move to a different college. right? In the sense of transferring and stuff like that. I don't think it should be any different for an athlete in the grand scheme of it. Where I do have the issue, right, is the guys like you said, Nick, where you look around and they are guys who are on their 4th team in 4 years with no eligibility left, and because they're just chasing whatever the highest dollar amount of the year is. And I that's where I do have an issue with it. I have no problem with a player going out and getting the bag like a normal student would at college. I don't have a problem with that in any means. I do have the issue, though, where it's just you're bouncing around and stuff like that. And this is where the Nico and Tennessee stuff leaves a bad taste in my mouth, because, like, a college kid essentially held out of practice, right? And I don't know. It's always tough to put myself in that shoes. Stuff that, would I have done the same thing? I'd like to think I wouldn't have, but, like, I don't know. And so, that brings into the element, like you kind of brought up too, Nick, of the contract of it, right? Look, it's come out that, Tennessee wasn't holding up some of the stuff that they were promised to Nico, but Nico wasn't holding up some of the stuff he promised to Tennessee. Where's the transparency here? I don't know. It's easier said than done at schools like, say, Tennessee, where it is technically a state institution. It's when we say Tennessee Volunteers, we're really talking about the University of Tennessee at Knoxville. That is a state institution. Mm-hmm. That's a public institution. That means we can look at it in that sense, right? It's different than, say, Syracuse, where Syracuse is a private institution. We do not have the luxury of knowing or having the ability to get that information publicly. It's just one of those things where it's, at what point, and I don't view some of the stuff happening on the government side of things, how they're trying to get involved in this is right either, but, at what point does there just need to be a hard reset? I think we're beyond it. Do I think it's going to get worse? No, I think we're kind of been at the worst here for a while with it. Now it's just coming into the more and more limelight of some of these higher profile guys and higher profile institutions being thrust into the middle of this.
What's your favorite state university?
Oswego. I know what you're trying to do here, but yeah. Buffalo, action.
Well, there
action,
you go. All right. All right.
What about you?
Yeah, you got me hooked on Tennessee.
Okay. Anyway.
Yes. That is a good point, though, about how Syracuse could keep things private and
right.
Tennessee is out in the public because they are a state university. But
state-run institution was probably a better phrasing.
Thank you. I'm never good with the better phrases, but
well, I'm talking on my end because to be fair, there is a Tennessee State University that's also within the state, but trying to think of what Tennessee. Well, like Tennessee Martin is a good example of within the Tennessee school system. What I mean is I don't want people to make it sound like where. I'm trying to think of a good example of it without. Okay, I kind of did it, but here's a better maybe example for some people. UNC, if we say UNC, but that's UNC at Chapel Hill.
Yeah.
Whereas like Duke is a private institution. UNC is a public.
And what about UNC Asheville?
Is within that system, so they fall into that public quote-unquote sector.
UNC Wilmington.
Also, probably should have been a little bit better with this too. As far as I know, the universities of, so like say Tennessee, I think they're public but private in the sense of they can technically say no to people, whereas like that can be the case at UNC, but NC State is the public quote-unquote outright public college. So
now, why is Pepperdine also a high school?
Zoe 101, huh? Pacific Coast Academy.
Yeah.
PCA.
Yep.
Pete Crow Armstrong. My bad. Anyway, back to you.
What was I saying? Oh yeah, the big thing is like there are no contracts with college sports. Or
they're contracts, but not contracts. Yeah.
I mean, they don't owe this Nico guy anything, Tennessee. If this guy doesn't, hold up his side of the bargain with what they've agreed on, they're like, yeah, go. If you want to go get some money, we don't want you anymore, man. And that's basically what Tennessee did. And UNC's going to take them. And if you've mentioned already guys jumping around from college to college, and a lot of that's just for the money. A lot of that's could be his personality. And you would like to think that, I don't know how much more your eligibility has left, but you would like to think that this will be the end.
Well, are you talking about for Nico? Or?
Nico, yeah.
Well, he was a freshman.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So if he jumps around from team to team, he ends up his whole college career with 4 teams. That's more of a him problem than a, he wants a money problem. It's just, if he goes to UNC and it doesn't work out and he goes somewhere else, that's just, it's kind of the state of college football and college sports in general. And I don't like that. And you've mentioned it, and I agree. They want to get their money. Go get your money. But it's just, there's no loyalty in the sports that we grew up with.
And I do want to say one thing, too, in this sense. And it kind of, this part, it pisses me off because I saw it from somebody who commented on the Trevor Pena thread in Reddit about whatever. And it's like, how can, it's like, I have a hard time being loyal now to whatever. I'm like, I always go back to this. You have a problem with it now. But when it was happening behind the scenes and technically illegally, you didn't have a problem with it. And it's just one of those things where I think it's generational, where despite us having different views on it overall, I wouldn't say we're accepting of it, but it just is what it is. You know what I mean? Whereas I think for our parents' generations, it's kind of hear no evil, speak no evil, see no evil type thing. Look, at the end of the day, the system isn't fair to anybody in this case, right? It's just going to be whoever has the means of whatever, means of control, whatever you want to call it, that is going to be what it is, right? I always go back to this. Again, different time, but you had teams back in the day, specifically in what was the old Big 8 and Southwest conferences, right? Going toe-to-toe with not just each other's conferences, but schools within it, where they were offering not cars and stuff like that Reggie Bush got in trouble for in our lifetime, but oil, legitimate oil businesses and stuff like that, where you didn't have a problem with it back then, but you had a problem with it in 2003 with Reggie Bush with a car and a house and whatever. Okay, whatever gets you to sleep at night,
Well, we're not blind. The NCAA is terrible.
Right, and I think, I also think that's part of it too, right? It's we've been able to smell, our generation's been able to smell that bullshit from day one.
They are the worst run organization in all of sports.
Yeah.
There's just nobody worse than the NCAA.
Yeah.
NCAA.
NC2A. I remember when that was a thing back.
Really?
I remember watching some of those 30 for 30, some of the original ones where they were really going at the NCAA. It was kind of what I call the turning point of a lot of people on it. It's the way they would call it the mid 80s, the NC2A. I'm NCAA. Why are they just calling it the NCAA or NCAA? NC2A. Okay.
Ever seen the movie The Blind Side?
No, thank God.
The NCAA looks terrible. You never seen it? You've really never seen it?
I've never seen it because it doesn't take.
Anyway, the point I was making is
it's a movie. Trust me, it's a movie. It ain't accurate, but it's a movie.
The NCAA, they make them look terrible in that movie. By the way,
the people are terrible in it.
Yeah,
that's why.
Yeah,
I don't disagree.
The family you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My main thing with the NCAA, I always go back to this, and I get it. It's a little bit apples to oranges and stuff like that, but, they kill SMU's football team in the mid '80s for something every other team was doing. It's just the fact that they weren't a team that was generating money, essentially, for them. They get the sense, and how come no other major program in any other major sports ever gotten it, right? And you look around, the only other like true death penalties have been like Bradley's men's tennis team and stuff like that, and they turn blind eyes, and I know it's whatever, and I'm gonna get flack from Pat if he hears it, but it's like they turn a blind eye to UNC, you know what I mean, more or less. Like it's just,
Hear 'em.
But
But yeah, the story seems a little stretched on the blind side, but a good movie overall.
whatever gets you to sleep at night.
Yeah. I wish there was a portal when I was playing.
Intramural legend.
Yeah.
Could take your talents from Cuca to
The big show.
UB at the very least.
UB intramurals, man, that's the big time.
It is crazy the size of the school, how much difference it make, like the pool wise, like. Because like I remember like I got dunked on in intramural basketball one time. I'm like, this is just.
Yeah. There was not a lot of people dunking at Cuca, I'll tell you that.
Still though, I mean, it's just one of those things where it's just like, holy, like.
There's a lot of good intramural.
Yeah.
You ever seen that one video? It was like the greatest intramural team ever. It was like 3 guys that like got cut from the basketball team at the school, and they
Actually, I do know. I don't think I ever saw it, but I do know what you're talking.
and they were just like, it was a bunch of highlights of them just going off
Yeah.
in intramurals.
Yeah. That's why they're divisions, and either way. All right, let's talk some golf, shall we?
It was a choke, but not a choke.
Yeah, so the Masters was tough for me this year because I saw the first 2 rounds pretty much perfectly fine. Saturday and Sunday, though, because of travel and then being at the racetrack, was tough. But
Were you hour behind?
no, I was still East Coast time, EST.
Gotta be close though.
No. Well, actually, wait. No. I was still like a couple hours
Isn't
away.
Nashville? But I know Nashville's on the other side of the state, but isn't that an hour behind?
I would have to double check.
Yeah.
I was still a few hours. Well, even then, Bristol to Nashville's like another, at minimum, 3 hours, I think.
Yeah, they're like on the opposite sides of the state. Looking at
Well,
it.
Nashville's pretty central. It'd be like Memphis
I'm
is
thinking.
way on the
Memphis,
other
I'm
side.
thinking.
Memphis, I know for sure, is Central Time
That's what
Zone.
I'm thinking of, Memphis.
Either way, so it's interesting. I know for me personally, I woke up Sunday morning and I saw the odds. I'm like, I'm hammering Bryson, which I did, and it backfired.
We got the great showdown.
But I guess let's start here. Rory McIlroy finally completes the career Grand Slam, right? Gets the green jacket. You could tell even before he put it on, just like a weight of the world type deal off his shoulders. And for a guy for us who we lived through Tiger, but the early Tiger stuff was early enough in our lives that we probably didn't really fully grasp some of it. But we've been around and cognizant of Rory since day one for him on the pro level. It's hard not to feel good for him. I've never been a big Rory guy personally. Just never has been my cup of tea. We'll get to more on that obviously in a second when we talk a little bit about this. You'll tell why. You'll be able to see why. But it's just one of those things where it's tough to do these deals, man. I think I've always kind of leaned this way. I've always thought the individual sports are some of the toughest to succeed in because you are competing not so much against the opponent, but more against yourself more times than not. And that's where I think you see Rory, and like I said, we'll get to some of the choking of it in a second here, but you could tell for a lot of these guys, man, that's the biggest thing for them holding them back is always themselves more than anything else because it's just you out there at the end of the day more than anything else, right? Like, yeah, you have an opponent in front of you, but like at the end of the day, man, it's you against the opponent against yourself.
Yep.
And that's the thing with this where it's like hard not to feel good to some degree that Rory was able to finally, after 16 years, get this monkey off his back.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about the career Grand Slam, but it was also his first major win in 11 years.
Yeah, that's the
Nearly
other
11
part in this. Yeah.
He had not won a single major in a long time. Almost as long as Tiger went from 2008 to 2019.
Same amount of time, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. And so he gets a career Grand Slam. Obviously, the Masters, and he's always played pretty well at the Masters, but he's just, choked, and the one you always think about is 2011, where he was up 4 strokes going the last day and ended up tying for 15th. That was a major choke.
Yeah.
But, you know, it was an incredible final round. I mean, Rory and DeChambeau, the duo, the matchup only lasted for a couple holes. They were going back and forth early on, but then DeChambeau started fading while Rory started getting the field to it. It was mostly like, because we were wondering coming in today, is this just DeChambeau versus Rory? Is anyone else going to make a push? And it turned out Justin Rose made his push. We thought it might be Ludwig Oldberg, and it turned out it was Justin Rose, who was on his game the first 2 rounds, kind of lay low in the 3rd round, but he got his game going. He got really hot, especially in that back 9, or second 9, sorry.
Good save.
On the back 9. Yeah, I don't want Augusta coming in here.
Oh, no, the Jackets are outside.
He started really getting going on that back 9, Justin Rose, and when Rory got to the playoff after he finished up his round, he probably had to be a little surprised that it was Justin Rose, good buddies with him, and had to been a little surprised that it was Justin Rose going to the playoff with him, and they play the 18th again. I don't care for the 1-hole playoff. I'm more of a 3-hole playoff type guy, not the 18 holes that they used to do in the U.S. Open. I like 3 holes, get your little groove. 1 hole, anything can happen. Anyway, the Masters is 1 hole, and they did the 18th. And they both, second shot comes around, and I thought Justin Rose hit a better shot, but Rory just played the 18th hole better.
Yeah.
And got closer to the hole, and Rose missed. Rory made it, and he won the career Grand Slam.
It's interesting you phrase it that way. So Justin Rose was two groups ahead of Rory, playing-wise, Sunday morning or Sunday. So he wraps up, and he has to more or less play the waiting game, right? And it's funny how everything kind of comes. You mentioned the 18, and Rory could have won outright on 18.
Forget about that, yeah.
And misses a putt, and I think that's where the choking stuff kind of comes back into play for a lot of people, especially.
It was over.
Because look, he doubled 1, right? Rory did. He doubles 1 in the opening round, and even for me, I texted a group chat. I'm like, here we go, like here it is, and I did have to eat a little bit of crow, but then fast forward to 18, and
he does it again.
Look, it's easy for us to say, but it was probably a tougher putt than what even the cameras could make it out to be to some sort of degree. But you look at it, it's like it's such a gimme putt. You feel like for a professional.
And they put up on the screen for the career Grand Slam, not for the championship,
right.
For the career Grand Slam, and the pressure just
Yeah. And then to come back, and this is what I mean by it's you against your opponent against yourself. To go back out there, and the hole that you have to do it on is 18, the one that you just frankly misplayed, botched, whatever you want to call it, and he answered back in a big way. And it's interesting because I know a lot of people said like Rory played great throughout the tournament. I do push back on that. I thought, especially Friday, he did not play all that well. I know score-wise says differently, but like I wouldn't have been surprised Friday if he only had, and I would need to see what the exact thing was, but the way I was describing it to my dad, for example, on Friday, because he didn't see a lot of Friday action, was he was army manning it on Friday a lot. He was going right, left. I told him I wouldn't have been surprised if the official fairways hit for him was 5 of 18, or however you technically score it. Like I thought it was frankly a rough Friday for him, and he bounced back. He did well. I mentioned he's never been a big cup of tea guy for me. I've never thought he, for a while, embraced the role that he thought he should be or anything like that. The example I use on that's like Bryson knows what he is and he doesn't run away from it. That's what I kind of mean by that, And it's funny you mentioned it. I throw Rory, and it's interesting because, like you mentioned, he does have the career Grand Slam, but it'd been 11 years since he won a major. I throw him into this category with like Justin Thomas and Jordan Spieth, where it's like these guys we had such high hopes for years, and they frankly just have not done like anything in the grand scheme of it. And is that probably a little bit unfair? Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and act like, especially to be fair to Rory, I think Rory's much better than either of those two, to be completely honest. It's just one of those things where it's like, these guys who came in at, frankly, the same time, a time when golf probably needed somebody to kind of, if not maybe necessarily take the mantle from Tiger, but you have Tiger coming off injuries, dealing with everything going on in his personal life at that time.
Yep.
I mean, needed somebody, and for a moment it looked like they were going to do it, and it just never really happened.
And that's been a lot of guys.
Yeah.
Brooks
yeah.
Koepka, now Scotty Scheffler. I mean, yeah, Scotty's still there, but he only has the 2 Masters. He's got to start doing some of the other majors.
And that's what I mean by like golf's in it's a double-edged sword spot to be in my mind, where I don't know in today's world if having a guy like Tiger would do well in terms of like, you go into especially the majors where it's like almost guaranteed, he's going to be there on the last day, type deal. But at the same token, I do agree with you on the Scotty front, but it's interesting because you look around now and I feel like golf is in a little bit of a better spot now than it was maybe when those guys first kind of came in.
Yeah.
Only because, Scotty's a good example of like, at the very least, he plays so consistently well, period, that like, hard to kind of knock him to a degree. At the moment. I think we're entering, I'm not disagreeing with you though on the front, like, I like to see him maybe do something so he doesn't fall into this like Bubba Watson territory almost. But like, you look around, you have guys like Oberg who, his time's for sure coming, stuff like that.
Shaw played a big last
There's
year.
a lot of like really good, I would call fan favorites who like, not that there weren't any back in the day, right? But like, you feel like a guy like, say, like Min-Woo Lee, guys like Tom Kim, people like that where it's like, they're going to go out and they're going to play and it's going to be good, type stuff. It's just one of those things where it's like, now that he's got this off his back, do we see
more relaxed?
I don't know about relaxed Rory, but like, do we think like this year could be a year where now officially where it's like he can go in
next year's Master will be a lot more relaxed.
Well, right, but like I view this year, the only reason why I'm saying is because like this year's a Ryder Cup year. There's like, could this just be like a year of Rory essentially?
Could be.
Almost in a way.
I mean, he won the Players.
Yeah.
He's been playing well this year. Keeps it up. There's a good shot he could pass Scotty for number 1 player in the world again.
Yeah.
And it was such a big deal because it was the Masters was the one he didn't win, which is the biggest one.
Mm-hmm.
And to finally come through and pull it off, it was incredible. And that definitely just cements his legacy as top 10 golfer of all time.
Yeah.
I would think so. I mean, there's only been 21 people to win 5 majors.
Mm-hmm.
He's now one of them with my guy Brooks.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it could be.
Who we might be seeing back on the PGA sooner than later.
Yes, good. He needs to come back. Brooks needs to play competitive golf.
There's a few of them there. It's tough where I think Bryson's the clear outlier in this, but it's only because I think, like I said, he leans into what he is. So I think Brooks, Bryson, a lot of those early guys who I think when their contracts are up at the end of this year with Liv,
Had to back up.
I think Brooks is the beyond obvious one.
John Rahm's another one, needs to play some
His
competitive golf.
his contract ain't up yet, I don't think.
He just went right after he won the Masters, he went over there.
Yeah. So
And obviously that's what made it a lot bigger headline coming into the final round was Liv versus the PGA Tour with arguably the 2 best players from both those tours right now. I mean, as of right now, Rory and Bryson. And it didn't live up to the hype, but it started off good. The matchup between the two, they were going back and forth. Bryson just didn't have a great Sunday, and Rory did. And are they two good friends? Probably not.
no, they are not.
Saw that video of Bryson a couple months ago.
I will go ahead and say this. I feel like people are really trying to spin that into like a Tiger Woods versus Sergio Garcia type thing. I just don't think either one of them, like, trust me, I don't think either one of them like each other.
No.
Like, I don't think it's as deep as the Sergio and Tiger one by any means.
Well, they did not like each other.
Yeah.
A lot of it was Sergio jealousy, I think.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
He's just like, I'm not kissing up to this guy.
Yeah.
And this is more like, LIV, Live versus PGA Tour. And PGA Tour wins this round. Last year we saw Liv win it with Bryson at the U.S. Open. Also ended the run of Americans win majors with Rory's win.
Yeah, true.
It didn't matter if it was going to be him or Rose. We saw it was like the first time in a long time all Americans won all 4 majors last year.
Yeah.
I can't remember the last time that happened. So,
well, you have to go into what, 2020?
It was a while ago.
Is it 3? No, 2 maybe? Last international winner for a major?
What? International?
Yeah.
Oh, 2023, you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because it was all last year. It was all American.
Yeah.
I thought it was 2003 for some reason.
No, help. That'd be crazy.
For some reason, I registered.
Plus, last time I checked, Hideki Matsuyama's not American for sure. So
Some of the reason 2003 registered in my head when you said that, but
Sergio Garcia on the brain over there.
especially Rory's got more than one. But it was cool. It's a cool start. Great leaderboard. A lot of big names up there.
I tell you what, and I think this is good for the sport that the PGA's, to be fair, really only a few weeks away in the grand scheme of it. But, man, there are some big names who are going to need to show up there or else, like, because there are already a few of them having a rough year. But I look at a guy like, say, like Tony Finau, who's had not a good year, did not play well by any means in the Masters, like, missed the cut, obviously. But, like, guys like him who, like, I don't know. They need to figure it out quick.
Well, you could be like Ricky Fowler. Didn't even get invited to the Masters this year.
True.
You got it. You got to keep playing well. You just don't just get handed these tournaments. You got to continue to play well. You got to win a tournament to get invited back to these tournaments. And you don't want to. You
last note on this.
You want to take advantage when you got the opportunity. And Rory got another chance and took advantage.
Last note on this. Would you pee at Amen Corner?
Yes.
Okay.
That story is ridiculous.
I feel bad for him only because I feel like he just did something that he's so used to doing essentially that like he didn't, and like to be fair, like I wouldn't think twice about it either if I had to go.
That's probably
like,
the first urine to ever lay on.
no shot that it's the
Doesn't happen often.
no shot that it's the first though. Come on.
It is kind of crazy. The guy just.
I love how he just said, I'm like, I don't know if you're really supposed to. Like, you could tell I don't think he meant to like say in this like whatever, but like
The Augusta National Grounds crew people had to have lost their mind.
Yeah.
What did he just do?
Oh, luckily it went downstream.
Yeah, go on.
Thank you. All right, before we get here quickly, I already mentioned I was at Bristol for NASCAR for the weekend. First time down at that track. First time I've ever been to Tennessee.
That's what my question.
Can check another state off my
That
list.
was my question. Have you ever been to Tennessee?
So, first time in Tennessee. So check that
I
off
looked
my
at the
list,
map. Bristol's like dipping your legs into Tennessee. It's like right on the border.
Yeah. No, well, Bristol, it's interesting. I did see the famous sign in downtown proper Bristol, which is literally Main Street. One half is in Virginia, one half is in Tennessee. Yeah, it was so cool. Definitely bucket list track for NASCAR fans, and it's pretty crazy how it's literally in the mountains. Yeah, I've said this a ton, especially Sunday's race. I can't imagine it was a great race to view on TV. And not to say it was tough to watch in person, but I can understand how it was a rough watch on TV. There was stuff happening kind of throughout the mid-pack, but TV never really shows that, especially Fox anymore. So tough hang, but looking forward to.
They don't show what anymore?
Like the midfield stuff.
Oh.
You know. I would go again for sure. I think pretty good possibility I renew the tickets. Plan out a little bit better next year.
How was the weather?
So, yeah, weather was actually interesting. Saturday was I would definitely say on the colder side. When it was the sun setting at the end Saturday, you could feel the cold, Sunday, it was mid-60s. I was in a t-shirt and shorts as the race got going, but to start the day, I was definitely in a pullover, but tough to beat. Monday was great travel back-wise. Kind of sucked that I was in a car for a lot of it, but couldn't ask for a better travel back day in that sense. So overall, can't complain. Was pretty good, and of course was able to hit up a couple of my favorite spots food-wise that I'm unable to go to, which I'm sure people down south could care less, but for up north for us, man, places like Bojangles, Zaxby's, Cookout, can't be beat. Can't beat it.
Waffle House?
No Waffle House this trip. Second trip down south in a row I have not hit Waffle House up, that's on me, but that one's
drove right by it.
Well, that one's a tougher one when you got, not like when you have people with you, but like, you're sitting down, there's a lot of go elements and stuff.
You're a Waffle House fan. Didn't you say Bojangles is your favorite fast food, though?
Oh, Bojangles is awesome.
Is it your favorite?
Yeah.
What'd you say, Zaxby's?
Zaxby's is up there. Cookout's up there. Yeah. Cookout is a place where I will have
That's
my
fast
only...
food? Cookout?
Yeah, oh yeah. Cookout's the only place where I will have soda at this point. My, one, as I call it, 1 to 2 times a year soda.
Why?
So I know it's up. I know that they have it up here now, but they don't have it on Fountain. There's something about Cheerwine from a fountain, and I get a Cheerwine float at Cookout. So good.
So you didn't make it to Cookout, though?
No, I did go to Cookout.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
You were down there?
Yeah.
So you went to Cookout, Zaxby's, and Bojangles.
Yep.
And Bojangles still the best.
It's just the classic for me. Cajun filet biscuit.
I went once.
So good.
I got the tea and didn't want the tea, and it was a big tea miscue.
The tea's the best.
The tea sucks. I'm not a tea.
I literally buy a half gallon to bring back north with me. It's in my fridge.
Well, that's
at
on
home.
me. I'm not a big tea guy.
Yeah, I know it's on you. You diet Pepsi or die trying.
In the day I went
mix
there,
it up. Have a diet Mountain Dew every now and
we
then.
walked around Duke campus all the time, all day long, and
They're a Coke campus.
I was so thirsty, and then here I am with this stupid tea.
They're a Coke campus.
Coke?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I was just assuming.
I needed a soda, but
Your tea is fine.
anyway, I'm glad.
If you're having sweet tea, you don't even know that you're having tea.
Oh, so what you think of that fast food bracket that I showed you the other day, last week?
Oh, that one. Yeah.
Terrible.
Tough hang.
Also, some of these seatings were terrible.
That was bad seatings.
It was on this TikTok.
I would need to fully rewatch it, but I couldn't believe how they were talking about some of the places.
Who did they have win? It's something ridiculous.
So don't get me wrong, I like Chick-fil-A, but the fact that they were hyping up Chick-fil-A the way they were was I don't know.
Yeah. Also, I'm a big Chipotle guy, and to have it put at the 6th seed, that's ridiculous. You have to check.
Well, and that's the weird part for me is I'm not a Chipotle guy. Well, I am, but for me, I prefer Moe's to whatever, and mom and pop to Chipotle. I think Chipotle overall is incredibly overrated for what they are, but it was just funny the way they were talking. I'm what are these guys talking about?
So anyway, it was this TikTok I sent Paul. It was a 32 fast food bracket.
No, it wasn't. I think it was Instagram. Hold on. To play some theater here for us, Nick. I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah. So fast food is what makes the world go around. Fast food.
Yeah.
Fast food is one I've been eating fast food my whole life.
Yeah, it wasn't Instagram here. Hold on here. You're good. I just need to make sure I pause it here at the right time. Okay.
I have thought about this.
How do I pause a reel?
I thought about this hard, but I still think.
No, I don't want to fast forward. I'm sorry for interrupting. I don't want to fast forward. I'm trying to get this thing to pause.
I think McDonald's is still the GOAT.
Okay. The first matchup they did was Chick-fil-A versus Bojangles as a 1 versus 8. And they just immediately put Chick-fil-A over Bojangles.
So Bojangles is an 8 seed?
Yeah.
And that's your favorite? What disrespect.
So, okay.
That's disrespectful.
It was crazy to me how they hyped up. Okay, I remember the one for me that I was very mad about, even though it was I could take or leave pretty much 3 of the 4 of the spots of this. But they it was Dunkin' versus Arby's, a 4-5. And they moved Dunkin' along, no problem. But then when it came up for Starbucks versus Little Caesars, they were talking about how, like, Starbucks is only one thing, even though Little Caesars is too. But it was like, you're comparing coffee shops here, and you're like, you can't do, like, one argument but not the other for one.
Which one did they have? It's the one seat in the bottom right corner.
Whataburger.
That's what won.
I can't remember. Well, let me
Let's go to the end.
Crap, come on. It's not letting me drag. There we go. Okay, I need to keep going with this here. Theater of the mind.
So McDonald's is the GOAT. And everybody should know that.
Okay.
They don't change.
So Chick-fil-A is representing the one side. Cane's versus In-N-Out. Cane's versus Chick-fil-A was the championship.
What is Cane's?
Chicken fingers, which I like, but like
I think that's the one that wins.
I'm pretty sure Chick-fil-A won. Hold on, I'm going to play out so I can fully. No, yeah, Chick-fil-A won.
Oh, Chick-fil-A did win.
That to me is just like, I mean,
No.
Look, we both like Chick-fil-A, right?
And I'm a fan.
I love how this has turned into what it is, but
Is it the best? I don't think so.
I'm not like Pat in the sense of like
My pleasure.
I'm swearing. I'm just like, this is incredibly overrated in the sense of like I'm never getting it, but like Chick-fil-A winning a fast food bracket thing is pretty wild in this day.
They're going against the hard hitters there.
It's
my pleasure that we don't work on
They
something.
also had Wendy's beating McDonald's, which like don't get me wrong, I love Wendy's, but like McDonald's just
Come on.
I mean,
McDonald's the GOAT.
it's the fact. Yeah, to be fair, the fact McDonald's didn't win is pretty.
It's the GOAT. They don't ever change the menu.
Well, they try.
And
We're still waiting for our snack wraps.
yeah, going right at them, huh? They're watching.
Big Ronald.
But
you.
yeah, that was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you ate fast food and you went to Tennessee and you had a good time.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think next year I want to renew, just plan a little bit better. It's not that this was so much last minute, but it was like very much so within like a 3-week span. This was a figured out situation, and maybe a deal where I could go down and actually enjoy the day Saturday and a little bit better, and not have it be a travel day mixed in.
So a new track.
Yeah.
What's your top 5 tracks you've been to? What's the latest rankings right now?
So
This is all experience. This is
I want to make sure Michigan, Watkins, Dover, Richmond, Bristol, Daytona. So now I've been to 6 tracks. So
so one's got to get knocked out.
here's the tough part. I didn't get to experience Michigan fully. To be fair, I didn't really experience Bristol fully either. I want to make that clear because we traveled down Saturday morning. Only was there for the Xfinity race. We got to walk around Sunday, to be fair, but like I didn't do the experience the way I hoped. The only reason why I'm gonna not put Michigan in here just yet is because I didn't experience Michigan fully yet because it was rained out. We got there a little bit later on.
Disaster trip.
I wouldn't say disaster, but it wasn't great.
Yeah. Number 5. Where we going with? Number 5.
Probably would go Richmond, and it pains me to do that. But I probably would go Richmond.
Number 4. Daytona.
I think we'll go Dover at 4.
Number 3.
This is where I'm going Daytona. It's been a while since I've been down there.
Bristol's in the top 2.
Bristol's 2.
Watkins.
Watkins. It's hard for me with it being the home track. It's tough to knock Watkins.
Fair.
But
That's good.
yeah. To sum it up, Bristol, man, I just my inner 8-year-old was genuinely excited. It's tough. I think it's tough as the older that we get for that little kid to kind of get unlocked a little bit more.
You need to go to the New Hampshire one.
Yeah, that's what I mean when you asked last week, like what's the kind of plan here? New Hampshire and Pocono are 2 that I haven't been to, which seem obvious places that I should be going to.
Is the Pocono one right in the Pocono Mountains?
Just like how the New Hampshire track is right in New Hampshire.
Why?
I still got it. Okay, I think that about wraps up the.
Well, I'm glad you had a good time.
Appreciate it. Nick, happy that you had a good birthday. Full moment of disclosure here, because of travel, I was a very jackassian person. Forgot Nick's birthday. So I will.
This
I
is
know.
all fake right here.
I know I'm not getting a shout out this week, but who is getting a shout out this week?
Well, because I had to shout out my mom last week for her birthday, because it's her birthday on the same day.
She turned 29.
Yes, so did I.
No, you turned 28 in my personal record book now.
I'm going to shout out my brother, Matt.
Shout out Matt.
I didn't get to shout him out. He won Jerry won fantasy basketball and hockey championships this past winter. And that puts him in the same conversation as you, as we speak in Grand Slams here. You and Matt, if you win fantasy baseball, will be the first one to complete the Jerry won Grand Slam, the career Grand Slam.
Be nice.
To win a championship in all the leagues, except you and Matt both need the baseball, which I have, and I won't let you borrow. Yeah.
If I give you $3.
All right, here you go.
Yeah.
So yeah, career Grand Slam. Shout out Matt and shout out Paul.
What am I getting shouted out for?
And you get the career Grand Slam.
We'll find out in is it mid-September this year? So yeah. There you go.
Got a big win last week though. Team's starting to come around.
Well, took a while to go on, and unlike other people, I stick with my pitchers because I know what they can be. So
Sorry about Mitch Keller yesterday. He didn't pitch great.
he pitched good. It's just that
Yeah, he got quality stuff.
he's entering a. I wonder if he's entering that part of his career where he has to be more crafty.
Yeah, he didn't. Two strikeouts. I think he only had
3.
not good enough.
He's still going distance-wise, but yeah, it's tough. He's not bad enough to release by any means. So.
No, not
Did
yet.
have to make a transaction today, though. Can't keep trusting Kumar Rocker.
Ooh, yeah. He'll get it.
Well, we'll see.
Hopefully, we'll figure it out.
But we'll see. Yeah, my position players have really had a good couple weeks, so they've turned around after a rough opening 10 days. So
Jose Ramirez, man, that 7th pick.
yeah, crazy. Either way, we'll get out here on that note. Stop boring the people. Back at it again next Wednesday. Enjoy the weekend, everybody. We'll talk next week.
Finger Lakes Wine Talk.